All right, welcome back to the To Be Better podcast. We are the Chris's. We do question and answers, emails, and sometimes we simply talk shit. But first, a disclaimer.
We are not professionals.
No.
Everything that we speak on is opinions derived from experiences and outside knowledge we've gotten from other resources.
Mm-hmm.
If you get any value or something we said resonates with you, share this.
Yes, that's how we grow.
And if you're not subscribed, why not?
Yeah, that's a good question.
If you're not subscribed, you're going to miss out on this whole experience. That's the Chris's.
That is the Chris's.
Please leave a comment. Your comments are actually super dope to read. Knowing how that we've impacted you or your relationship, it just helps us continue to do what we're doing, and it shows that what we say works sometimes. And to submit a question or just to email us and say how we've helped or maybe constructive criticism, email us at tobebetterco@gmail.com.
The number 2.
The number 2. Emails will be read anonymously on this podcast, unless specified otherwise by the sender. So if you don't want us to put your story out there, tell us that.
Correct.
If you're going to send emails, please be as detailed as possible. If you give us a one-sided email about how your partner is the problem, that is all we will address.
Yeah, you will get a one-sided reply.
Yes. Nobody is perfect. Take accountability. Everybody can grow.
Whew, preach.
And we are giving unbiased, honest opinions. We are not yes men. So if you submit something to us, be prepared for an answer that you might not like getting. But we are going to give you a very honest, outside perspective.
Is that the full disclaimer?
Yeah.
Now to the episode. All right, guys, we are back. We just tried to read this email and did not make it through it because 30 minutes in, we realized that there's no chronological order at all to this.
Yes.
It is all over the place. And after being very confused and frustrated, we stopped, went and ordered some dinner. Mm-hmm. So at some point, I may disappear off the camera and go grab it when the DoorDash delivers because we are being lazy on New Year's Eve. But before we get into that, I have to brag. I just got a text message from my mom who said that her marriage is improving because her and JJ are watching our podcasts.
You know, we're in a group chat with your mom. She sent that message, and I probably said it a lot louder than I should have, but I was like, did you just read that message?
I was very excited.
I was so excited when I got that.
I've talked about him a little bit. JJ is... When I was a young man, JJ was one of the men that I looked up to as a good man. It was Ice Maker.
I think that was fireworks.
Oh, it could be. Yes, It's New Year's. You're right. I forgot all about that. And the guys over there, they go hard on the fireworks. So you guys may hear that. I apologize.
Yeah.
Anyways, JJ is one of those men that I looked up to when I was a young man as a good man. He worked. He provided. Danielle stayed at home. She cooked. You know, they did the church thing.
Did everything we're doing.
Yeah, they did it to a T. And they didn't have to take me in.
Right.
I was the 5th kid in their house for years. And yeah, definitely fireworks. I was the 5th kid in their home for a long time, and they weren't financially well off. They made ends meet. But they made sure to feed me and gave me a place to stay, and like they did a lot for me in my teenage years, and really both of them, and I don't think he realizes how much, but both of them helped me become the man I am because of the way that they presented themselves. I wanted that.
Mm-hmm. You've said that a lot.
And I've said it to you a lot.
Right, yeah. I just want to specify this isn't just like
the
first time you've ever said this. This is something you repeatedly have told me and explained.
But knowing that I'm now paying that back to him,
right,
dude, that just made my night. I don't know about you, but I feel good.
Hey.
All right.
Yeah, not gonna lie, that makes me a little emotional. I love that.
It's
for them.
insane, right?
Yeah.
To think that, like, I don't know. There was a whole lot more information given there, and I'm not going to get into it because that's their personal life. But
right,
yeah, it feels good.
I'm glad.
All right,
you're such a good person.
Let's do this.
All right,
let's do this.
So, like he said, So actually, before we get into this, I just want to share a moment that I had the other night. This is actually a while ago, but it was a night that made me happy. And I don't know what triggered that thought. It might be the fireworks outside or something. But I just want to share, like, it's super important to take little moments and just enjoy things, right? It was the night I put out water for the moon.
That still doesn't have a lid on it.
It still doesn't have a lid on it. I'm not perfect at this, but I'm lazy about it, but it still gets done.
Whatever makes you happy, babe. That's all that matters.
So it was the last full moon of the year.
Yeah.
And it was the biggest full moon of the year, right? And you were like, it's a full moon. And I was like, what? And I was like, I didn't even put water out. And he was like, well, you have time. Like, do you want to go put water outside? And you said you had jars and everything. And I jumped out of bed. And I filled up this jar with water. And I took it outside and I put it on the sidewalk. And I looked at the sky and I was like, oh, so many stars. Like, I'm just this tiny speck in the universe. And I get to witness all of this gorgeousness. We don't have neighbors surrounding us, but we have like neighbors on streets further away. And through the woods, I was hearing I Like It by Enrique Iglesias. And I'm looking up at the stars and I'm like, I've never had the planets align for me like this. Like, I'm having such a good moment. Like, the moon's out. I have water. There's Hispanic music playing. Like,
how much weed did you smoke that night?
Not a lot, but I was definitely stoned. But like, even when I'm not stoned, I take moments to appreciate life. And I just wanted to say that, like, that moment with your mom just now, like, I'm never going to forget that moment. That was a really good moment for me.
It was a good moment for me.
It's super important to just appreciate small moments like that.
Yep.
When you're always bitter and your life is miserable and you think your life is awful and all of this shit, like, you neglect those small moments. Those small moments is a little ray of sunshine.
Yep. And those small moments are what we look for when things are going bad.
Right. And like, those small moments are going to lead to more small moments. And those small moments are going to become more frequent. And then your life is just going to be dope like mine.
All of that from Moonwater.
From Moonwater. And I Like It by Enrique Iglesias playing faintly through the woods. Like, that really did it for me.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. So getting into the email, it is kind of all over the place. Because it is not in chronological order, there are going to be probably a few moments where I have to scan over and it's going to be some silence. You might want to have to edit that or something. So I am 32 years old and have 2 boys, 11 and 12, from a previous relationship. Currently, I have been in a 7-year relationship with my boyfriend, who is 49 years old. He was married when we met. However, they were working on separating. She ended up moving 6 hours away with their son, who was 17 at the time, and he stayed in town because of his job. They also have a daughter who was in her second year of college 4 hours away. He and I had met through a friend at his work, and we became best friends. Soon after, we started dating. He still lived in the home he and his wife had, and I lived in my own home about 20 to 30 minutes away from him. I wish I knew what year this was in, because she provided years for everything else. I wish we knew the time frame of when the relationship started, like what year and all that shit. The way my schedule worked with the boys, I had them half the month and then they went to their dads the other half. And at this time, they were 4 and 5. When the boys went to their dads, I would go stay with him after work. Things were awesome. We had some issues when I would drink, but it was because I wanted more commitment than he could give me at that time, since the divorce was still in process. Yes, I know I was wrong to be with a married man, but at that point, it was all over.
I'm going to just jump in and say that when you initiate the divorce, when you sign your paperwork to initiate a divorce legally, you can open bank accounts, you can get cars in your name, you can remove people off of your car insurance. There's a whole lot of things that happen when that is initiated.
Right. You're legally separated.
As far as I'm concerned, there's nothing wrong with dating once you've initiated divorce, because the shit is already over. Like, you've gotten to the point where you've made the decision that you don't want to be married to that person anymore. Mm-hmm. You've separated, the divorce is initiated, whatever.
You know, I think it's super important to say, like, when the divorce process is initiated, like, it takes a long time to get to that point. And even though one person could still be hurt by that, the other person could have just processed that it was over years prior. Right. So there's no emotional attachment at that point. I understand that one person can be super devastated in that process.
Doesn't mean that both are.
Right.
People check out way before shit happens.
Mm-hmm. It happened to me. I was checked out a year prior before I left.
Yeah.
So they rarely saw each other. However, all hell broke loose when his children found out about me prior to his divorce. They would not have anything to do with him for over 6 months. So in 2019, the divorce was finalized. How long does it typically take for a divorce to get finalized?
It depends on how much fighting's going on. It depends on the court system and how backed up things are. I mean, there's not like a specific time frame.
Okay.
I know that with my divorce, there was no real fighting involved. Like we came to an amicable agreement ahead of time.
Right.
The divorce was initiated. We submitted the paperwork, and that was already pre-notarized to our lawyers. And that was, we separated before Thanksgiving. The divorce was initiated in December, and I was completely divorced by I want to say it was June or July of the next year. It may have been May, April. It was early the next year, but it had to have been 5 or 6 months.
Okay.
4 or 5 months. I don't know.
So,
but there was no fighting in that. Like there was no
Right.
back and forth. There was no lawyers fighting each other. It was just, this is the way it's going to go, and it goes. I know people who've been fighting for divorce for 2 or 3 years because there's constant
Right.
litigation that happens.
okay. So I'm 100% assuming this, but I'm going to say they got together in 2018. Like
Okay.
the separation happened. They got together in 2018. Divorce was finalized in 2019. So he moved into the house with me and my boys. His son still lived with his mom and the daughter was still in college. That year, my boyfriend pushed me to start to go back. That year, my boyfriend, so there's a name there. She included
Right.
names in this. I'm trying to avoid saying
Is
names.
that name different than his name?
What name?
The boyfriend name? Is it the same name? Because you said my boyfriend. Is the name that listed there, is that her boyfriend's name?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Because the way you worded it made me go, wait a minute, what?
yeah. So I might trip up and say husband or boyfriend or whatever. I'm
Okay.
trying to avoid saying the person's name. So this year, my boyfriend pushed me to start back at college working on my teaching degree. So I began substituting at schools and working on my degree. I work, go to school, and full-time parent my kids when they are home. He does not help with things unless I have no other choice. I take complete care of my home and all the things to do with my home, such as mowing, our chickens, gardening, and all the chores. He does laundry because I hate it and will help if I ask, but he is not home much to help, and I like to spend that time with him. He also started working night shift at this time, and our schedules were completely opposite. He also worked 3 on, 2 off, 3 off, 2 on. So he's working 5 days and he's off 5 days.
It doesn't work that way though.
So 3 on, 2 off.
Right.
So when does a 3 off, 2 on happen?
Right after those 2 days are off. So you work for 3 days in a row, and then you get 2 days off, and then you go back to work for 3 days on, and then 2 days off. 3 on, 2 off, 3 on, 3 off. How did it work? Either way,
3 on, 2 off.
Right.
And then 3 off, 2 on. So he would work 3 days and be off 2 days, and then work 2 days and be off 3 days.
Yeah, it's normally how that works. Normally,
Okay.
you don't get 5 days off like that, or they would call it a 2 on, 5 off.
Okay.
So
So he's working that crazy schedule in 2019. In May of 2020, his son turned 18 and then moved in with them. So he went from the mom's house to living with you guys.
why?
Right. Why?
At 18 years old, why didn't he move out?
Yeah.
Get his own place, be a man, do the life thing,
Right.
join the military.
Why? Was he living at the mom's house by choice?
Well, I mean, at 18 years old, if he was under 18, he had to have been.
Right.
Because I think it's after 12, in almost every state, it's at 12 years old, the kid's decisions on where they want to live is taken into consideration.
Right. Okay. So let's just say the son chose to live with the mom
Until 18.
until 18.
Right.
Why did he choose to leave the mom's house and move in with the dad? Why was that allowed?
I don't know. I wouldn't
That's
allow
a
it.
lot. All was well until the son got a girlfriend, and I set expectations for how I expected him to act when my younger children were at home. This did not sit well with the son. When I expressed my feelings of disrespect to my boyfriend, he disregarded it and did nothing to help the situation. I have a problem with that.
I got problems with all kinds of shit in this email, but that is a problem too when
Right.
it's your house.
Yeah. And this is a boyfriend. This is not your husband.
Right. And when it comes down to it, if you don't like the way things are going, you have the ability to make them leave.
Right.
And that's the conversation. This is not your house. You don't pay bills. You don't contribute. You are here by the grace of God and my goodwill. So you're either going to ship up or shape out. Shape up or ship out.
Yeah.
Said that way backwards. I am tired.
So she continued to say he actually argued that I was being unreasonable and that his son was grown. If your son was grown, he would be on his own paying bills, or he would be contributing to the household, because she goes on to say he was not helping. He was not paying for food, bills, or anything.
There you go. Can't say you're a grown man if you're not doing anything to actually be a grown man.
If that
Bye,
is-
Felicia.
if that is that man's definition of what a man is, how does he act as a man?
She could have been like, oh, yeah?
Right.
You can leave too. Imagine that.
That's a whole lot of note for me.
There needs to be a level of respect that's maintained. When you guys are living together, you are acting as if you are married at that point.
Right.
Your partner has to come first. That's the way it needs to go. I understand that he's got a kid with another woman. She's not related to that kid at all.
She has no obligation to be doing this.
Her house.
Right.
He's 18 years old. You have no obligation to do anything. I don't agree with that. I firmly believe that when you turn 18 years old, you need to move out of your parents' house.
This is also the son who lost his shit when he found out that they were together.
Yeah, wouldn't speak to him for 6 months.
Right. So you are gonna judge your father's actions after a separation of being with a woman and then freeload off of that woman. The audacity.
Well, I mean, when you read further into the email, you'll understand why. Because it's a learned behavioral trait because his father is pretty much doing the same thing.
She says, I would be home with my children or home the nights that the boyfriend's working while his son pretty much just mooched at my home. My boyfriend and I began to have relationship problems over our arguing about the disrespect his son showed. He even ended up buying some property 30 minutes from here and helping his son get a camper to place on it. My boyfriend bought himself, so it was supposed to be a shared thing, a shed to make a tiny getaway home. On the land that his son had a camper on already, I expressed that I felt the tiny home was not something that was ours. It felt more like it was his. And during that time, about late 2020 to mid 2022, we began fighting a lot and I began shutting him out and becoming numb and emotionally unavailable. We also began to have sex problems at that time. And before that, it was great. Sex held us together.
It doesn't really work that way.
It sounds like if sex is holding you together, the only thing you have in common is sex.
Right. And if that's the case, if what did you say she was like 32 or some shit and he's 49?
32, 49 now.
Okay,
so at that time, she was in her late 20s.
Either way, they built a foundation in a relationship off of sex. They're both adults.
Right.
They could have just had a sexual relationship and called it at that. There was no reason for him to move in there. There was definitely no reason for the son to move in there.
Right.
If you want to be sexually active with a single person and be monogamous with that person, you can do that without living together.
Right.
You don't need them there to help you financially. You don't need them there to help you take care of your chickens, which he's not doing. Like, why is he even there at that point? And especially if you guys are arguing and having the issues that you have, you are not married. You don't have to suffer through a relationship with anyone. That's the whole point of dating. If you're not happy, you fucking call it off and find someone else.
Right. It was our escape from life for a very long time until he moved in and the emotion bond he held with me began to fade. So he moved in 2019. So there was already emotional issues in 2019. Son moved in 2020.
Okay. So they were having issues before the son got there.
Right. So
It's a lot.
it really is. It was our escape, began to fade. When I started pushing him away, I would only notice that he showed me affection in a sexual way.
Well, I mean, you were pushing him away.
Right.
Why would that even be a statement?
Right.
And when I hear you say that, like, okay, I understand what's going on. And then I played it back in my head. That is a dumb statement. I pushed him away, and the only time he gave me attention is if he wanted sex.
Right. So he moved in, and the emotional bond he held with me began to fade. If sex held you together, was there ever really an emotional bond?
No.
Right. Okay. I began to reject him. He did not. So he would only show affection if he wanted sex. I began to reject him and did not want him to even touch me. Work had gotten between us and we rarely had time together. I felt I was spending more time alone than with him. I began looking for others to fill the need for companionship.
So she cheated.
Yeah, that is emotional cheating in my eyes. So
guys, this is why this is the second time we're trying to make it through here. This thing is all over the place.
So did the emotional cheating happen in 2019 when he first moved in, or did it happen in 2020 to 2022 when you guys were fighting because the son's there?
The real question is why did it happen, and why did you not just move on when you realized this isn't what you wanted?
Right. So in May...
Okay, you highlighted this. Is there actually a reason for all of this? Like, is there a reason for this email to even exist? Because I got to be honest, none of this sounds like they want to be together.
So she ends this whole email with, I know you don't like to tell people to leave a situation, which I don't want to do, and it seems neither does he.
All right, I guess read the rest of it. And it's just, okay.
Okay. So in May of 2022, so 2 years after the son moved in. So in 2022, son moved in. At some point, the son moves out, moves into the camper, and then the boyfriend starts spending more time in this tiny house.
Right.
Getaway that's 30 minutes away. It sounds like a getaway from her.
That's what it sounds like to me too.
Right. So in May of 2022, I had enough. I packed all of his things up and put them on my porch. So you were done. You kicked him out. Like, you packed up all of his things. He was going to come home and he was not going to have a home to come to.
Right.
Put them on my porch. He was at work and I had been drinking. When I stopped and thought about what I was doing and the reality of it hit me, I unpacked it all. So you reacted out of emotion without even processing what you were actually doing, packed all of his things and put it on the front porch for him. I would be devastated. Like, if she did not realize.
I wonder if he even caught that. I wonder if while he was at work, she went through that whole gambit of emotions and then put everything back and he doesn't even know it happened.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't say in there, does it say anything about how he came home and found it that way? Yeah, no. He probably didn't even know that that was a thing.
Yeah.
Just like I'm sure he didn't know that she was looking for companionship from somebody else.
Yeah. Within the next 2 months, we got into another big argument again, and he took all of his things aside from what was absolutely necessary and put them into storage. This began the snowball effect of my feeling like he was getting ready to leave. As I already suffered from depression and anxiety, this did not help my mental state. I began looking at everything he did as a personal hit towards me.
Let me pause for a minute. Guys, if any of you deal with depression, stop drinking. Alcohol is a depressant. If you have depression problems and you drink alcohol, it's going to make your depression worse.
Yep.
If you know you have depression and you actively make a decision to consume alcohol, you don't get to use that as an excuse for anything because you are making a decision that you know is going to make you depressed.
Yeah.
And now that you know that, you can't ever use that as an excuse again if you drink.
I agree. I used to be a pretty bad alcoholic. Like, I would wake up the days that I didn't have the kids. At this point, I was homeless. Like, I would get up at like 8 or 9 o'clock and start drinking. I'd put down a bottle of wine a day just in the mornings. It was bad. And there was one day I woke up and I recognized, I was like, it's 9:30 in the morning and I'm already drunk. I don't have a job. I am living out of a backpack. I have a car in my name and that is it. And my kids are currently with their dad, who was living with somebody else at the time. I'm like, what a fucking mess I've created. Mm-hmm. Since then, I really only drink if like we go to the movies or we go out to dinner with our friends. Every once in a while, like, I'll have some of the whiskey that you have, but even then it's just one shot, like one little glass, that's it. And it took me a very long time to be able to get back to that point of like, okay, I can have one drink and that's enough.
Yeah.
When I stopped drinking, my life got 1,000 times better.
It's crazy how that works.
Right.
I would also like to point out how dangerous, like, deadly alcohol is. Mm-hmm. Alcohol poisoning, drinking and driving, the violence that happens, the emotional shit that goes on with it, and how safe, effectively, mushrooms and cannabis is.
Yeah.
Plant medicine can actually make your anxiety, your depression, your past traumas, it can, if you do the therapy with it, it can fucking heal you. It's being proven. Johns Hopkins University is doing the research right now. Harvard is doing the research. Washington State is doing the research. We have done the research.
No, that's literally me. This morning, so just a little story. This morning, I got dressed to work out. I was super excited. Like, I haven't been able to do it because the kids have been home. I don't work out when the kids are here.
Right.
I was super excited. I went out and I got us energy drinks. I'm like, we're going to do the thing. And I couldn't find my gloves. That ruined my morning. And I sat on the couch and I opened TikTok. I'm like, wow, I'm such a fat piece of shit. Like I haven't worked out. I can't find my gloves. And I was scrolling TikTok. And then I took a hit from my pin. I was like, okay, I'm not as frustrated. I'm like, is it really that big of a deal? I was like, while he's out there working out, I can go clean the bathroom and our bedroom. And that's going to knock out an hour and a half of what I would have to do before we did this podcast.
Right.
Or whatever the hell we're doing right now.
I just got another text message from my mom.
Yeah.
They went out to dinner last night and he sat next to her in the booth.
Oh my God.
I love that.
That makes
so
me so
much,
happy.
Dude.
Good for them. I love that for her. I love that for him. They're falling in love again.
I know.
I'm going to cry. But
I love that. All of it.
yeah. So the point of me saying all of that was I went from using alcohol as my
Right.
numbing to smoking weed. When I smoke weed, I'm a lot more calm and I'm not anxious.
We have our medical cards.
We do.
We're not glorifying drug
No.
use. This is actual medicine.
Yes.
In the state of Florida. We're golden.
When
I
notice,
actually don't smoke either, by the way. I do have my medical card
Yeah.
for pain because of my back. I'm missing discs in my spine, and sometimes I have back pain, and that does help, but
Right.
I don't really ever partake.
Yeah. But I have bad depression. And when I notice my depression is getting bad, like I swap out my vape for something different.
Yeah.
And it helps. Like if I just try to live life without getting stoned, I would be a depressed fucking mess because I wouldn't know how to process my emotions. When I smoke, I'm able to have more calmer conversations. It helps me remove my emotional side and think with my more logical side.
I am so envious of that. The
Yeah.
reason I don't smoke is because I can't hold conversations. Like,
Really?
yeah. And okay, so this is going to be way too much fucking information than anyone needs to know. But because I was a big pothead for a long time when I was younger, and
Yeah.
it never affected me like that. But when I quit for a long time. And as an adult, when I smoke now,
Is it too
I
overwhelming?
can't even send a text message. I have to read it 15 times to like proofread a
Right.
single sentence to make sure that I'm not sending something that looks stupid
Mm-hmm.
because of my childhood trauma. And you're a dumbass and you're never going to be anything and you're fucking stupid and all the shit that I heard my entire life. When I get high, I can't focus on anything other than how fucking stupid I sound.
Right.
So I can't. I can smoke at home. Like if we were getting ready to watch TV, I could get baked and just stare at the TV. But had you asked me anything, if you tried to have a single sentence conversation with me, I would fall apart.
When I get stupid stoned, I'm like that. Like
I'm
I
like
giggle at the stupidest
A
shit.
single hit off of one of my vapes and that's it. I'm done. It's bad.
Can we have a date night
No.
with that? Okay.
I don't think you understand how like it triggers anxiety for me.
Yeah.
So that's like a last ditch effort for me with my pain.
Yeah.
All right, let's get back to the email.
Yes. So
My mom sent me that text message. Sorry, I'm elated right now.
I love that. I'm happy you're happy.
It makes me feel like things are coming full circle for me.
right.
And I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
I'm literally just sitting here talking to my woman.
So her beginning to look at everything he did as a personal hit, that's a you thing.
Yeah.
You know, when you are anxious and overwhelmed and depressed and so speaking from personal experience, when I'm feeling those three things, everything is a personal attack against me because I'm already thinking I'm a fuck up.
Right.
I'm the problem. I'm the issue. You know, everybody around me is doing everything they need to do. I'm the one that's fucking up right now. When I'm in that mindset, everything is a personal attack against me. If you wake up and you roll over and like this has never happened.
Okay.
But hypothetically, if you wake up, grab your phone, roll over, didn't say anything to me and you know I'm awake, he doesn't love me anymore. Like he just showed me, he didn't acknowledge me. He knows I'm awake. Why doesn't he love me anymore? That's a personal attack that didn't even exist. But because I'm in that mindset, that's how I take it. You have to learn how to subtract your negative emotions towards yourself to other people's actions. You could have woken up and been like, oh my God, I forgot to pay something.
Right.
Grabbed your phone and you're paying it real quick. It's rational versus irrational thinking.
I agree with that.
Okay. You're sitting there just looking at me. I'm like, is
No,
that stupid?
No, it's a valid point. I don't have nothing to add to that.
Okay.
That's just one of those things that, you know, it's just the way that it is.
I began to overanalyze and finding things to fight about, as he would say. Well, if you're taking everything as a personal hit, that is overanalyzing.
Food is approaching, so you can continue your
Okay.
thought process. I'm going to go get our food.
Okay. If she is not taking things as a personal hit, like she's not misconstruing anything, my thoughts are so much better when I have someone to speak to. If she's not misconstruing it and he is doing things as a personal attack on her, her feelings are not invalid. She's not overthinking. She is not finding things to fight about. He is choosing to ignore his actions affecting you when he knows it's a negative thing. He doesn't care.
Right.
So fast forward to the last few months. My boyfriend and I have 1 week in a month together when I do not have the boys and neither of us work. So you guys get 2 days off in a 30-day period. You get 2 days to spend together to do whatever you want.
I wonder what the other 28 days looks like.
Right. So he's actually off 2 weekends a month, but because she has the boys 1 weekend, they only get those 2 days. So for the past year or so, the weekend that we have the boys, he goes and stays with his mother, who has become very sick, and I stay home. So our weekends have not gone well. There have been multiple times that a male friend of his has gotten tickets to a football game, and I was not even thought about. Okay, so I want to touch on that because she continues to someone else getting him game tickets.
Right.
So on that first one, multiple times. How many times is multiple times? People will refer to 2 times as multiple times. If in the last 2 months, on those 2 days, he goes out to a game on Saturday, you guys have Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he gets 2 weekends off a month. That's 4 days this man has to do whatever he wants. 2 of those days, he is taking care of his mother. Even if he is a super shitty person, that man's taking care of his mom on his 2 days off.
Right.
Now he only has 2 days remaining. One of those days, I don't know, the man deserves a football game.
I feel like if somebody's buying you tickets to do something,
Right.
and they're paying for you to go and experience that shit, then I don't see what the problem is.
Right.
But you're right in that in the event that 1 weekend they've got a game, he should take her to dinner the next night. They should date.
Right. So that Sunday they need to be doing something.
Yeah. This sounds like this entire thing is already over to me. They're not living together after all of the time that they've been together. You said it started in 2018. So
it didn't say 2018. I'm assuming
okay,
2018.
so even if it started in 2019, because it did say that, it did.
They
mention
moved in together in
2019. Right. So
2019.
if that's the case, they're still almost 3 years into this. If they're only seeing each other 1 or 2 days a month, they're not living together anymore, and they were at one point.
Right.
This doesn't sound like it's a marriage or a relationship. This doesn't sound like it's anything at this point. It doesn't sound like they're doing or wanting anything.
Oh, you got it.
I did.
Karate Kid guy.
Miyagi?
Yes.
You went cross-eyed when you said that.
I was trying so hard. I was like, what's his name? What's his name? And I was like, just say something. He's looking at you.
This doesn't sound like a healthy anything. It doesn't even, like, there's nothing here right now that says they're in a relationship. There's not a redeeming anything in this email.
So I just
at this point, which is why a minute ago I asked you, like, what is the point in all of this?
Right.
Because it sounds like the relationship is over, that he's moved on, she's moved on, and they're holding on to hope 1 day a month that they may fuck. Like, that doesn't seem like the intimacy is gone.
Right.
They're not, she's pushed him away. They're not sexually engaged.
She's emotionally cheated.
She's emotionally cheated. I don't understand the point of even reading this email.
He disrespected her by letting his son behave the way he did.
Right. If they were living together and they were trying counseling, or they were having conversations and implemented check-ins, and they're doing all the things to try to redeem their marriage and trying to love each other and go on dates and put each other first and something, if they were doing any of that, I would be like, okay, this is where our starting point.
Right.
I don't even see a starting point other than maybe you start dating again. But if he's living 30 minutes away in a tiny home and you guys aren't seeing each other and he's not taking you out on dates and you literally only have 2 days a month together, what is the other 28 days like? Look, are you even texting each other during the day? Like,
Right.
I don't.
So she does go on to say, because I remember there's a PS in this. I forgot to add, when he is gone at work, he rarely texts, which I get because he works maintenance. but I usually have to reach out first. And when he is at the tiny home and I am at the house, he does not communicate at all.
This is done. This is not even a relationship anymore. You know, communication, I say this all the time, is 70 to 80% nonverbal.
Right.
And you need to hear what's not being said in a communication. Mm-hmm. His actions and the decisions that he's making is showing you that this is over with.
Right.
And if you don't engage with him and he goes 2 weeks without talking to you, like, you're not a priority to this man.
Right.
I don't, this is not something that, there's nothing redeeming about this email. There's nothing in there that tells me he wants to be there or that she wants him to be there because of all of the foul shit that they've done to each other. And like,
so I'm skipping ahead. There were other
right
basketball tickets bought. She likes basketball. He didn't take her. A few months back, I told him I had changed my phone password and then he changed his. I changed mine back and had complete transparency while working on building trust back after my infidelity. However, he will not leave his phone anywhere where I can touch it and has turned off notifications on the front screen.
This is pointless, babe.
So you are taking all of the offensive steps. Mm. You cheated. You withdrew. You didn't try to there was no communication. He's withdrawing emotionally. Babe, why are you withdrawing emotionally? I feel like something has changed. Have I done something to upset you? What's on your mind? You just withdrew. And then you're upset that he didn't chase you. And then you changed your phone password and he was like, all right, bitch, you want to change yours? I'm going to change mine.
Right. I'm going to add a tip here real quick for everybody. If you notice that somebody's off and you go, what's wrong? Mm-hmm. That can be taken as a negative and they might get defenses from it. But if you say, hey, I can tell you're off. Is there anything I can help you with? You are going to get a very different response.
What did I just say?
A variation of both of them combined.
Okay.
It was close.
I think I said what's going on.
Which is the only reason why I felt the need to even say anything. So I don't know. I think I think he's very emotionally detached and this is not a thing for him anymore. And I think he's just appeasing her at this point. I don't see anything healthy in this.
It doesn't sound like so later on in the email, she admits that she has apologized for her wrongdoings. I'm assuming he knows that she cheated.
Right.
He might just be too weak to say, you cheated on me. I don't want to do this anymore.
Well, yeah, I mean, he moved out.
Right.
They don't talk unless she engages with him. He doesn't talk when he's off of work. When he is with her, his notifications are off. She can't get into his phone, and that was a thing for them at one point. I don't know. I think at this point, it's probably that he's around purely for sexual activity, and if that's even happening. I don't see anything in this email that says, hey, this is worth doing on either one of their parts.
So, end of the email. I mean, there's still a lot. I skipped over a whole page.
Yeah.
And she goes on to say, life, stress, work, and kids have truly come between us, and I don't know how to cope with the things anymore. You guys let that come between you.
Yep. On
both ends. It's a lot. It's a lot to process. I don't know. There's really only two answers that I can give here. Either start dating again and tell him you love him. Bring up the happy times in your guys' relationship. Talk about, you did this and that's like when I realized I loved you. Do you remember the first time I told you I love you? Like, talk about those things. And if he doesn't have any sort of reaction, if he's like, yeah, that did happen. There are times where I sit down and I think about the first time you told me you love me, and my breath still catches the way it did the first time you told me. If we were in an argument, like a prolonged argument, like weeks, we have been at discourse in our household, and you brought up, do you remember the first time I told you I loved you? And if my breath did not catch, that would be the moment I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, I don't know what to do. If there is no reaction and he's just like, yep, yeah, I remember that, I feel like it's too far gone.
I think that you're right in that if they want to try to make this work, they have to start dating again, mm-hmm. and it needs to be an actual effort on both parts. I don't know. I just don't see it being a case.
After everything that's happened, it's a lot. A lot has happened. Both people have done super shitty things in this relationship.
Right.
And you can only hurt someone so much.
Mm-hmm.
There is a point that people go to where there is no coming back. If you are at that point where there is no coming back, if he's at that point where there's no coming back, you can't change his mind on it.
Right.
I don't want to say there's no redemption in this relationship, but I really feel like there's no redemption in this relationship.
I think the only thing that they can do is either walk away from each other or start trying to date again. And actually be like, hey, I want to go to dinner. Let's go sit down and have a talk. Let's do something that does not involve us sitting at the house. But there, there's a lot of things there that tells me he's emotionally checked out, like not sending each other text messages.
Right.
I understand that when you're at work, but like even when I'm super busy, I still find time to shoot you a text every once in a while, like, hey, I'm thinking about you. I hope your day is going good. And if I'm home and you were not living here, when we weren't living together, we blew each other's phone up constantly.
We did.
It was constant communication. We were always talking to each other. So, knowing that he's off of work, the hours that he's off and she's not working and she's just sitting at home and not talking to him unless she engages him in conversation, it just shows where he's at.
He doesn't care to have a conversation.
Right. But he's also turned off his notifications and won't let her see the phone. So there's a very strong possibility that he's already talking to someone else and moving on, and he's just not letting her go yet.
Right.
I don't know. I look at the situation as a whole and try to read into everything, between the lines of everything, and like the dude's checked out.
So there's a part in this email where she says, here's the issues I'm struggling with. I mostly just need to know if I'm truly overreacting and how to manage when I am triggered. Do you want to go through those bullet points?
Sure.
He no longer shows love and affection, no sweet texts, even though I send them daily, no random I love yous, no text goodnight when at work, or kiss goodnight, or I love you at bedtime unless I do it, or any of the things he used to do. A hug and kiss is only given when one of us leaves for work.
If you're watching this email, this thing, if the person wrote this is watching this, replay that and listen to what you just said.
Right.
He's done. He's checked out. Like, you're not a priority. This is not a thing for him anymore. I don't know.
The next one is that she has specified she needs reassurance and he's not giving it to her. He's just saying you're being controlling.
People, you have to match energies.
Right.
If you want a successful relationship, you have to take that step. If you're throwing all of your love and aspirations and goals and wants towards this man and he is not reciprocating that, he is telling you exactly where you stand. You can want him until you're blue in the face, but if he's not wanting to do the same for you, this is not going to be a thing. And that needs to be a conversation that needs to be had with him. You need to be like, look, I'm at a point where I think that you don't want me anymore. I truly believe that you don't want to be here. You don't want a relationship with me. I'm trying to go above and beyond to right the wrongs in our past, and I want to make this work. If you don't want this, tell me, because I don't want to keep wasting my time and my love and not have it reciprocated.
Yeah.
Give them the out. Be like, look, if this isn't what you want, just tell me. You have your own place. I have my own place. We're adults.
I don't feel valued by his friends and family. Plans are made without me being thought about or considered. I can understand why that bothers you.
But that's a him thing also.
They're not married.
I know, but it's a him thing. If his friends and his family doesn't want her involved and he is okay with it, that's a him decision.
Yeah.
If we weren't married and somebody was like, bro, let's go see Rock of Ages in Vegas. I'm like, cool, let me get Chris a plane ticket because she's coming with me. It's not a discussion, motherfucker. She's coming or I'm not going.
Right.
Like, that's just the way that is. You put your woman first. Like that's how that's supposed to work. I don't understand that mindset. I really don't. Like, I'm not going to let anyone come between me and the person that I'm in love with.
So does that apply to the basketball tickets too?
What do you mean?
So his friend's buying him those basketball tickets for him and for them to go.
That's his friend buying those tickets.
Right. So if the friends are making plans and not considering her,
then he needs to say something.
Okay.
If the friends are paying for that ticket, paying for that outing, like if somebody was like, I'm going to pay for your flight to Vegas, pay for the hotel room, pay for the show.
Right.
That's a different scenario because I'm basically being a mooch at that point. I'm allowing somebody else to wine and dine me for however long we're going to be gone.
Right.
It's a very different scenario. But let's be realistic. How often is that going to be a thing? Football tickets aren't cheap. So in the event that they're actually, making plans to go together and he's paying for his own shit, that's a different conversation. She should be going with him. Or he should be like, if you would like to go, you need to buy your tickets because, maybe he can't afford it. I don't fucking know. That's just...
I also want to know, like, how often are these plans being made?
Right. Well, if you only got 2 days off a month that's not being occupied by work or your mom, that would be a monthly ordeal, and it just happens to fall on the weekends that together. I don't know. I don't know.
So he gets 2 weekends off, but I'm assuming he gets other days off in the week.
I'm sure he does. Well, I mean,
Right.
if it's just the weekends, he would have to. And if he's working a 3-2-3-2 or 3-2-2-3 or however that worded,
right, the way it lines up, he would probably only get.
he would get more time off than 2 days a weekend or 2 weekends a month. Because he works 3 days and has 2 days off.
Right.
And then works for 2 days and has 3 days off.
So is it like on those days off where you're not available? Is he going out and doing these things?
Yeah, that would make more sense. I don't know. There's a lot. I don't know.
You want to stop this?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to eat. I don't want to tell her not to pursue this. I think that you need to sit down and talk to him and let him know that you are trying everything to make this work, and he's not reciprocating that. And if he's not going to reciprocate that, you guys are done. You are wasting your time on somebody who is emotionally checked out, does not give a shit. And if he's not willing to match your energy and try to fix the problem, move on. You are 30 years old. There is no reason for you to be chasing a 50-year-old man that doesn't fucking want you.
The last 2 points I'm going to mention is that he does not view marriage as anything more than a piece of paper. He says that we're pretty much married now. In 2020, he gave me a ring and said another would follow. Oh, he gave her a promise ring and said that another would follow, but things have been so rocky it never happened. Understandably.
Would you consider us married if I live somewhere else?
No.
That's not living like you're married. That's not even, nothing in this email says that they live like they're married. Not a single thing in that email says that.
Well, she asked him to marry him. Well, she asked her to marry him. She asked him to marry her in 2021, and he said yes. But I don't think he took it as seriously as I did. I mean, he told you his opinion on marriage. Mm-hmm. So if it's something that you kept pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, and you proposed to him, he could be just appeasing you because he doesn't want to hear it anymore. And he feels that his kids will always come before me in anything. And when I told him that they are grown, 20 and 25, and he enabled them to be spoiled because he felt guilty for the fact that he hurt them by his relationship with me, he gets mad at me and it gets ugly. If I were in this situation, if this were me personally, knowing everything that I know from this email and having the experiences that I have and the knowledge that I have and the self-worth that I have, I would not be in a relationship with this man. I apologize. I don't have any better advice than that. That sounds like you're beating a dead horse.
Yep. I would either walk away from the situation and let him go, or I would have that talk, and if things don't change within a week or two, I would then let him go.
Okay.
That's my thoughts on this. There's nothing in there that makes me feel like he's still engaged and wanting this at all. It just doesn't. Right. And it could be the way that she's written the email. Like, there's no way of knowing because we don't live these lives.
Right.
And this is a very he's the problem email. She owned a lot of her shit in that, and she's saying she's trying, but now she's also saying that he's checked out and not reciprocating.
I also want to know, like, how are you phrasing things? How are you approaching things? Like, you could be thinking that you're approaching it kindly. There are times I've approached you, I'm like, okay, this is going to be a good approach. And it was a really shitty approach because your communication style is different from mine. Right. Approach is important.
Mm-hmm. Communication is important. Mm-hmm. Knowing what's not being said is important.
Right.
I don't know.
I want to eat.
50 minutes. Yeah, let's call it. We'll eat and then get another email in.
All right.
See you later, guys.
Bye.